You're listening to Learning Leader Spotlight, interviews with corporate L&D leaders. On each episode, we sit down with key industry experts to discover more about what's happening in the world of learning and development, from current trends and insights to the most valuable lessons learned along the way. Join us for a fresh perspective on all things training and the best direction forward. Here's your host, Leanne Langford.
Hi, welcome to Learning Leader Spotlight, the podcast where we interview the learning leaders of today to help the learning leaders of tomorrow. I'm your host, Leanne Langford. I'm the president of Training Pros, and Training Pros is a woman-owned L&D contract staffing company where we like to say, when you have more projects than people, let us bring you the consultant to start your project with confidence. I'm really excited about my guest today. Please join me in welcoming Rapti Khurana. She was formerly the Vice President of Talent Engagement and Development, most recently at the National Football League. Welcome, Rapti.
Thank you, Leanne. Thanks for having me.
We're thrilled to have you here. Just to get us started, why don't you just share with our audience an overview of who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I lead learning, leadership, and talent development strategies that help organizations build high-performing, future-ready cultures. Right. So it's really, focusing on organizations building the leadership and learning capabilities they need in the future. And I also, what I like to say these days is that my job is morphing into becoming the person who is at the intersection of people, performance, and possibility.
That's great. Thank you. What is it about learning and development that first attracted you to our field?
What first attracted me was the strategic nature of the field, right? I was very drawn to the idea of creating learning organizations because I was heavily influenced by the leader. A professor, HBS professor, I don't know whether you know, his name was Chris Argyris, and he talked a lot about how to create learning organizations and how learning organizations are actually very different, from just the high performance organization, right? So I thought that was extremely cool. And it's really about creating these new forward-looking organizations, all right, and not just delivering training. It's really shaping the organization in a way which is sustainable and high performance. So, that kind of really attracted me, to L&D. I also felt that, and as more and more I, got to know more about this field, and this was evolving, rapidly when I was in my 20s. I felt that L&D was not just developmental, but it's transformational, and I want to be part of that.
That's a great reason to join the field. I love to hear what brings people to the field. We've had a lot of changes in the last few years in L&D. In fact, I've been in L&D over 30 years, and I've seen a lot of changes. But in the last few, what are the most impactful ones you've seen?
The one major shift that I have observed is that L&D is no longer about content. It's not, when I say content, no, it's not like no longer about content. It's no longer content-centric. That's the better way to put it. It's no longer content-centric, but it is more capability-centric, right? So what that means is that we are no longer asking the question, what training should we offer? We are actually really asking the question, what capabilities does the business need next? And how do we build them quickly? So that's a big shift, right? The second piece is I am also seeing that L&D is no longer, hey, these are our training guys. More and more, you are actually coming, at you are at the table, with your HR leader, right? Because if you see the wave now with AI, um, the CLOs, which is chief learning officers, are actually strategizing on talent development. And that is at the heart of the HR strategy. So that's a change. What I'm also seeing is that, we are living in paradox. It's not that we have not lived in paradox, but we are actually more increasingly living in paradox, meaning we want asynchronous, just in time, bite size, do not have time. So, learning has to be in the flow of work. So that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is people are craving for connection, community, and coaching. So, the organizations who can actually design ecosystem where maybe the foundational or the elementary um, learning is done by tools and technologies, and then really design the experience of learning such that people are learning with their peers, with the community. I think that is something I'm seeing. There is a change. It's disruptive. It's disruptive in a good way, right? Because here you are as a learning leader, you're continuously thinking how I can create that irresistible experience which people cannot say no, because you have to make learning stick. And you cannot make learning stick just by videos, just by a platform where people are going and just learning one way, or it is just on the job, or creating those community. It has to be well thought out, well designed, intentional learning system where people are learning when they need it, as they have time, yet they have the opportunity to bring that learning and experiment and explore and have have the opportunity to kind of really have the experience of seeing what they have learned is actually working on the job.
That is a lot of changes you've seen. I have definitely seen some of those myself, and it seems that we have been in a stage of about 15 or so years of content, 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 and I am seeing us finally shaking off the content role and going back to the origins of performance development, capability development, rather
Right.
than how much content can we crank out for
Correct.
people and
So
people
that
doing
also,
applications.
that's right. And that's also actually brings the nice challenge for the L&D leaders to say, how are we measuring it? What's the ROI? Because that's also something that the L&D leaders are facing as well.
They are, and they're also one of the things I've noticed about the measurement that they're facing is how do we provide the measurement with the business KPIs versus
Correct.
our measurements that we've
Correct.
been learning all these years?
Right. Exactly. You're 100% right, because that's the real deal, right? How can you connect learning with business outcomes? And how are you then measuring the learning outcomes, when you are looking at the business outcomes?
Correct. Absolutely. You said something else there that I thought was interesting about how people are craving more connection. I have personally noticed that lately, maybe just in the last year, that we've had this several years of everything on Zoom and everything virtual, and all of a sudden people are craving to come and meet people in person. And I have no problem getting people to agree to go to lunch now, where 3 years ago everybody said, well, let's just do it over Zoom.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, people are. And learning that it's becoming more, through those connections. Learning is becoming more like exchange of ideas. And we are social, humans are social. We are social beings, right? So we love to actually learn that way. That's our basic instinct. So more we can leverage that in the organization, I think better we will be as an organization. We will be much more resilient, which we will be much more innovative. We will create, conditions where people are more curious, and they can, they can actually really bring their fullest potential.
Great discussion on that. Well, where do you see L&D going? Since we're changing so rapidly and there's more changes coming every day, where are we going?
Will be in the future. I mean, not, and the future means like, I'm not really talking about like, really 5 years. I'm really talking about like 3 years, because who knows what happens, right? I mean, we can only peer, 3-4 years. But I think it will be hyper personalized. We have already started seeing personalization, and it will be hyper personalized. It will be extremely experiential. And it will be human centered, right? So I believe my understanding, being in this field for many years, personalized learning journeys will continue to grow. Coaching will become part of learning strategy, not as a separate strategy, but more like a integrated strategy. Because remember, we talked about community and this, so coaching, and especially as leaders navigate complexity and constant change, right? So that's definitely is how I see L&D is kind of really will shape up. We will also obviously see more, modular learning and learning embedded in the flow of work. I mean, that's just will happen. But we, like I said, like, I mean, it's nothing new, but we have to, if the learning has to stick, if we have to capture the imagination of our people in the organization, we cannot miss on high impact human experiences like cohort learning, like action learning, creating organic peer discussions, simulations, all of that, right? So if I bring all these things together in one sentence, I will say the future of L&D is really combining scale with intimacy. It we will be using technology and AI to personalize learning while still creating enough conditions for reflection, conversation, and human connection. And I think that will actually drive the behavior change that we are looking for.
That's a very detailed answer. I love it. Thank you. Well, let's shift gears now. Who has been your most influential professional mentor?
Not one, honestly, but I actually had many, and I continue to have many mentors even now. So early in my career, I actually learned a lot from all my talent leaders, right? How to think strategically, how to systematically actually bring rigor around talent development and learning, all of that. I also actually learned a great deal. In fact, most of my learning came from my business leaders. They challenged me, they taught me resilience. I also actually went and cried, to them when my well thought out strategy just did not fly, and that's where, like, they gave me perspectives, which which I value a lot, and I do not take lightly. It's, they just don't, I mean, mentors do not just give advice, they give you perspective. So these business leaders would actually give me perspectives, how to really create a compelling narrative, right? So that, business leaders get excited about it, and you create enough pull for your strategy or the programs that you are creating. So definitely, like, obviously, for your technical depth, you are working with your mentors who are from your field, but cross functionally, your business leaders actually help you to kind of really shape your thinking in a much more robust way, right? I mean, that's where you become leaders. I also actually learned a great deal from my peers outside of my field, right? I mean, they are the ones who would actually help me create, like, what's your value proposition? How are you strategically, selling your, your strategy? Right? How to create MVPs. If you are really are serious about something, then how are you kind of really creating your minimal viable products and showing it, and are you doing piloting in the organization? So all of that. Um, and I absolutely learn. I love reverse mentoring. So I absolutely love from my junior team members. They bring great perspectives. um, they come and say that what we are trying to do may not actually work with Gen Z. So then we kind of really go back to the drawing board and say, okay, tell me how I should be actually doing it. So I give you an example. We were, creating master classes at NFL, and one of the things that and this is something I can share. This is nothing proprietary. One of the things that we were kind of really thinking about what to do, how to kind of really help, how to actually get people to see these products that we are creating, or to really actually engage with the content. And my team member said, we are a TikTok generation. It has to be TikTok style, and it has to be that short, and it has to be that engaging. So if we cannot say what we want to say in less than 3 minutes, we are not saying it well. That was a great learning for me. There was a learning moment for me, right? I'm like, oh, okay, very interesting. And she was in charge, and we created a couple of videos and we piloted it. It was a super duper hit. It was right. I mean, people loved it, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot from my colleague who is junior to me.
That is great. I've never thought through that term reverse mentoring before, but I think that we're definitely doing that in our organization. In that, we have newer people, of course, younger people, teaching us about the big changes in AI and things. This type of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
you don't get that from the older generation, the boomers, and the
Oh yeah, I keep on polishing my prompts for my Chat GPT or Claude from my from my junior colleagues. I'm like, hey, I'm actually doing it. Is it a good way, or what's the better way? And they will tell me, like, actually try this and that, and absolutely enriches me. And that's how I learn. I love to learn, right? So I also, like, one of those people who love by just simply going and asking and talking to people and then figuring it out, right? So yeah, I think reverse mentoring is very powerful, and we do not leverage it enough, and it's a shame. Even as a learning leader, I would say that we should definitely create those conditions where reverse mentoring is at play, and at play at scale.
I love it. I love it. Okay. What do you think? Skills are all the rage right now. What do you think is the most important skill for workers to have right now?
If I have to choose one, I would say adaptability. But I think it's a cluster of capabilities: adaptability, curiosity, business acumen, and strategic thinking. I would also add learning agility. So why am I saying that? I'm saying that because the pace of change is so fast that adaptability is essential. But adaptability without curiosity really can become very reactive. And curiosity without business acumen can become disconnected from what the organization actually needs, right? And strategic thinking is what helps connect development efforts to business priorities. And this is something that we have been talking about in our organization for quite some time, because you have to go slow to go fast. Meaning, you have to really first think that I have limited resources, in terms of budget as well as time. So, what are what are the skills that I would like my folks in my organization to focus on, right? So so we kind of really thought that this is something that will really help the organization to be in good stead in the future.
Those are great skills, and several of them are some I've heard other people say as well. But it's nice how you linked them together.
Mhm.
What is your favorite source for industry news and information?
I actually regularly follow. Before I actually start, let me say that, I just definitely not follow just what's happening in the L&D world. My 90% of the time, I'm actually um, reading a lot of business journals, right? Because that gives me ideas around, where, what the micro and the macro trends are, and how I can bring those research out. But having said that, for my technical knowledge, definitely Josh Bersin, Learning Forum, Chief Learning Officer magazine, Workforce magazine, those are for my industry news and information. For my other sources, of course, Gartner, um, Gartner Industry News, then McKinsey Quarterly. Those are definitely I love to look for. And but then like I said, that I have to mix it with, I follow the practitioners as well, what they are doing, so that I have a good balance between thought leaders and the practitioners, right? So that's how I try to get my information.
That's great. Last question is my favorite. What is one book everybody who wants to be an L&D leader should read?
I would absolutely recommend the book called Immunity to Change by Robert Keegan and Lisa Leahy. What makes it powerful, this book, is that, this book really gets into the underneath of why change is hard. And it is hard because we, as learning leaders, we need to really understand. It's a crucial insight, I think, that sustainable change rarely just happen with skill building. It is really about changing the mindset, identity, and behavior. And that is what this book kind of really helps you understand.
It's one I haven't read yet, so I definitely want to add it to my Audible list.
Yes, sure.
I find I can digest more books if I do them listening.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter does, does it the same way. She can actually consume more books when she's listening.
Well, yeah, I can listen to books while I'm doing something active and not have to take time away from everything just to sit and read.
Right.
I
Right.
like it. And my mind stays more active when my body's active. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
well, it has been just wonderful having you on our show today. It's been a nice conversation. I feel like everybody learned a lot. As our thank you to you, we're going to plant 5 trees in your name. That's the charity we have a training for
Oh,
planting
how
trees.
lovely. Thank
Yes,
you.
we plant trees all around the world. We've planted 5,500 so far.
Wow. And you say all around the world?
Yeah, we work with a reforestation partner, and we plant trees every time we put a consultant to work, and we plant 5 trees for each of our podcast guests. And so over time, it builds up. It turns into a lot of trees.
That's amazing. How marvelous. That's such a great thought.
Thank you. Well, I always say that's kind of what you get when you work with a woman-owned business, because we want it to be more than just business.
Sure. Sure, for sure. Yeah, we are a good force of change.
Yes. So that's it for this week's episode of Learning Leader Spotlight. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please join us again next week when we talk to another learning leader from another industry.
Thanks for joining us for the latest episode of Learning Leader Spotlight, interviews with corporate L&D leaders. You'll find links in the show notes to any resources mentioned on today's show. If you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave us a 5-star review.